continues to alienate our allies. We're fighting a war at home. We're fighting a war with the immigrants. We're in a worldwide trade war thanks to him. And now he has brought us into and escalated a war that we do not belong in. How does this make us safer? We should be focusing on fixing our own damn problems. Healthcare, immigration, natural disasters, the insurance issue, that nobody can buy insurance in this country. Instead of spending trillions of dollars fighting other people's wars. And people say, oh, but Iran is threatening us. Yeah, so does North Korea and Russia on the reg. Why do we not drop bombs on them? Because they have nuclear weapons. So what is the lesson that Iran is going to take away from this attack? It's not going to deter them. It's going to reinforce their resolve to have nuclear weapons to protect themselves. How does this make us safer? Here we are back to Iraq. Trump has now knowingly attacked a country that did not have nuclear weapons, but whose besties are Russia, China, Pakistan, North Korea, all of whom have nuclear weapons, and most of whom also have their own lunatics in charge who are just looking for any excuse to attack the United States, the infidels. So how does this make us safer? Trump duped his followers into thinking he was a peacemaker. He's not a peacemaker, he's a piece of shit.
Well, the world seemed to be going worse and worse by day. Have you heard the latest? The US strikes Iranian nuclear sites. And I'm keen to hear what Americans have to say and what their thought line is. Stick around as you also share in the comment section what you think about this.
Donald Trump just launched an illegal and offensive war against a country that didn't attack us, Iran. He had the nerve to say immediately after launching an illegal and offensive war against a country that didn't attack us, he had the nerve to say, now is the time for peace. That's like walking into a bar, knocking somebody out and breaking their jaw, and then when they get up and square up to fight you, you say, hey man, I just want peace, bro. Now's the time for peace. Well, if you wanted peace, maybe you shouldn't have broke that fucking person's jaw. This is mental, what we're witnessing here. So, don't say you weren't warned. I warned you about this in advance. There was detailed reporting that came out, like, for example, from Sy Hersh. Sy Hersh said the decision was already made, not only to attack the Iranian sites, but he says also to do regime change in Iran. Now, understand something. All the talk about Iranian's nuclear program, it's all bullshit. It's all a smokescreen. It's the cover story that they're using to go after the Iranian regime and try to get rid of it because it threatens Israeli hegemony in the region. Because, stop and think about it, who pulled out of the 2018 nuclear agreement that Iran was abiding by completely? Donald Trump did.
Well, we have entered the dangerous phase of the Iranian-U.S. conflict in that we don't know what's going to happen next. And this administration has no ability to tell us the truth, so we really will have no idea what's going on. For example, last night, Donald Trump said that the Iranian nuclear capabilities were completely eliminated, but this morning, a senior general said that there was clearly severe damage to their capabilities, but we have no idea of knowing whether or not their capabilities have been completely eliminated or not. And the highly likelihood is that they had removed some things from those facilities because they had several days heads up because Donald Trump decided to play game show host with this will he or won't he stuff. So they had a heads up. So they likely moved some stuff. The other problem here is that the American public doesn't know if they're going to get real information or not. And they're scared because their country just attacked another country. Last night, Zach and I, two of the co-hosts from the Find Out podcast, we had a live last night. We had like 1,000 people on it. And people kept asking, am I safe at home? Am I safe at home? Can I travel domestically? All of these things. And the answer to that is yes, you can. But the challenge is this administration doesn't tell us the truth on anything. So it's going to be very hard for people to get the right information. The other concerning thing is that Senator Chris Murphy, who's on the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, said he was in a closed-door briefing last two weeks ago, and Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. So we're provoking here, which means that there is going to be a response coming back. It will likely be in the form of attacking a military base in the Middle East. But still, again, we've entered a very dangerous phase because this administration has no credibility, and we really have no idea what's going to happen next.
This is a message for those of you trying to argue that Trump's strikes on Iran and launching the U.S. into a war with Iran was not unconstitutional, and that his powers as president allow him to launch strategic strikes without congressional approval and to put boots on the ground for 60 days without actions from Congress. Stop. Just stop. Just like with anything else, you only glean what you want out of information while conveniently ignoring everything else. First, we operate as one country in a world, which means that we have both domestic and international laws to abide by, especially being a part of the United Nations. As far as domestically, let's talk about that for a second. Yes, a president can take some action, limited military action, without congressional approval in cases where, and this is the kicker, we're attacked or facing imminent threat. It gives the president the authority to use military force to defend the U.S. and U.S. citizens against actual or anticipated attacks in cases of emergencies and sudden attacks. This broad authority has been used by presidents on both sides of the aisle in years past and also sometimes scrutinized. Congress is the only body and branch allowed to declare war, but that doesn't prohibit a president from using military force when necessary to defend us. However, when a president's actions launch a war or put U.S. military service members or civilians in danger or starts a conflict that could be prolonged or substantial, it would be considered declaring war. Trump deciding to sporadically attack Iran as the aggressor, knowing they will likely retaliate or hoping he'd be able to single-handedly bully them into backing down after 3 bomb strikes we initiated like it's a game of cat and mouse or chicken, also significantly puts over 50,000 American service members and civilians stationed overseas at risk. He puts the U.S. economy at risk, knowing the amount of oil and shipping that region of the world controls, and launched attacks knowing the U.S. intelligence community confirmed in an assessment earlier this year that Iran is not building nuclear weapons. Furthermore, in cases where past presidents have used military force without needing congressional approval, they still prefer to get it for both political and legal reasons. Examples include Bush with Iraq and our response to 9/11, Roosevelt during World War II and the occupation of Greenland and Iceland. And in cases where war hasn't been declared by Congress, where U.S. armed forces are put in hostile situations or imminently happening, such actions must be reported within 48 hours in writing by the president to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the President pro tem of the Senate, together with a full account of the circumstances under which such hostilities were initiated, the estimated scope and duration of those hostilities, and the constitutional and legislative authority under which the introduction of hostilities took place. The president is also required to routinely consult with Congress until U.S. armed forces are no longer engaged in hostilities or have been removed. Reports are given to the House Committee of Foreign Affairs and to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Here's the problem with that. Trump only met with some of top Republicans in Congress before his strikes and waited till the last minute to tell some top Democrats. And whether he provided all the necessary documentation to back up or defend his decision, well, take a wild guess. No. As if that's not enough. Many would argue that Trump also violated international law, the UN Charter, and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or NPT, as the UN Security Council, for example, only allows aggressions and attacks like this in cases where it's self-defense or collective self-defense as a body. That's one of the reasons past U.S. presidents have declined to work with Israel or stood against them bombing others. For example, Reagan joined a UN Security Council group in 1981 condemning Israel for launching a surprise attack in Baghdad. And in 2007, the Bush administration declined to join Israel in bombing a nuclear sector in Syria. Out of fear, get this, it would destabilize that whole region. Under those same international laws, Iran now has all the options to respond in self-defense for its sovereignty, for its interests, for its people. Before this even happened, Iranian leadership had already warned an unprovoked attack by the U.S. would result in irreparable consequences for the U.S. To be clear, the world considers what we did a direct threat to international peace and security. And at the very base of all of this, What about his campaign promises and claims that he'd be the peacetime president, the no wars president, that he'd end all conflict on day one or never launch us into a war with the Middle East? What about all the criticism he's voiced towards conflicts and actions not nearly as severe as this by past presidents like Obama, especially specific to Iran? For those of you who voted for him or against the one person that had a real shot at beating him, what about no wars, free peacetime, ending the war in Ukraine, improving our economy, making America great again? That he cares about our military service members while putting over 50,000 of our U.S. service members and civilians under absolute risk because of his own ego and power trip. And for those of you saying, we had to, if Iran gets missiles, the facts are they didn't. They haven't. We took action at the hands of a megalomaniac that thinks the whole world needs to bow to him and meet his demands. Even now, he's already making more threats with no regard for the risk he's putting everyday Americans under and also the world. This is not a game. This is not funny. This is not dress up or pretend. This is real. And if it's not scaring the crap out of you or making you sick or angry, or you're still making excuses for this or defending him, you deserve everything coming for you and the rest of us that will have to suffer just because of people like you.
So, we know that we have intentionally sabotaged negotiations. Not only that, but used the negotiations as a means of sneak attacking multiple times now. So, as we know, last weekend on Sunday, we were supposed to begin talks with Iran. And they were planning on doing these talks in good faith. And what happened was, with our knowledge, Israel was planning on attacking the day before. So yes, we knew this was going to happen. We played the game, tried to take Iran unawares, and it worked. It really did work. And of course, after that, of course, Iran was going to retaliate. And it sucks that anyone's being killed, but if you didn't see this coming, like, give me a break. So now what do? We had an attempted assassination of one of their negotiators. I don't know if you guys are hearing about that or not, or are we keeping that hush-hush, that we've been doing bad shit the whole time. It was, 2 days ago that Donald Trump was saying Iran has 2 weeks to enter negotiations, and we attack the next day. So what does this make us look like to the world? We have sat there and said we're open negotiations at this place, at this time, and not only does Israel attack them with our blessing, then we attack them also. Somebody please help me understand what's going on. Like, every single person in this country should be fighting to have Donald King, oh my God, wow, Freudian slip, Donald Trump, your dear leader, King, should be getting dragged out of office, like, right away. So now we are at risk of attack from within because there's a lot of people who are really pissed. And before, it was just Israelis killing people in the Gaza Strip, which was horrible. So I shouldn't say just. But look at the attacks within our country that have already happened. Now we are attacking another country illegally. We are in a really bad place. There will be retaliation from within this country, and there will be retaliation to our troops and U.S. personnel overseas, thousands of troops in the region. They are all now at risk to be killed. And in my opinion, one soldier, one U.S. citizen, one person is too much to kill. And here we are. Damn it. Let your voices be heard. Stand up against this. Call your state representatives. Call the White House. Hit the streets. Start sharing information and awareness and stand up against this tyranny and just evil. Take care, y'all.